destroyed. Like, it just didn't even look like home anymore.
It came upon us in a way that we had never seen before. It was that once in 100-year storm.
Catastrophic. It was catastrophic.
One of the great things about being a soldier or an airman in the New Jersey Army National Guard or the New Jersey Air National Guard is one's ability to train and be prepared not only for overseas federal missions, but also being able to respond to emergencies here in our own communities. Really something that we think about is the idea of neighbors helping neighbors. No one person, no one organization could have achieved what was achieved in the days and months after Superstorm Sandy in terms of that recovery. We were trained, prepared, we knew what the response would look like.
About a week out, we start preparing the unit. We have 6,000 medical records that are housed here, so they all have to be packed up and moved out of the building we used to be in. We became a traveling show, and we would go out to Fort Dix or up to the units themselves if they had a big enough space, and that's how we ran our show to keep everybody medically ready.
We had to wait out that storm, see where things were going after the major danger had passed, and then go out into the communities and see what needed to be done to support recovery. There was debris around, they couldn't move it, they just had to hope it would be okay. Working in the EOC, or the Emergency Operations Center, was pretty smooth. This is something they're accustomed to doing and they practice for. The people are very, very adaptive, highly adaptive, which is always a plus in an environment like this where things are constantly changing.
For me, what brought home the tremendous impact of the disaster, of the hurricane, was that the day following the hurricane making landfall, so it was October 30th, 2012, I found myself in the town that I grew up in Union Beach, New Jersey, a small town in Monmouth County on the Raritan Bay. I was in a uniform and I was literally walking amongst the rubble on the houses and belongings of people that I loved, my family and my friends. And that is what is interesting about the Army National Guard. So I was in Union Beach with the 102nd Cavalry as an Army National Guard officer attached to them, going house to house. And as I went house to house, I encountered families that I had known as I rode my bicycle by their homes when I was a kid. And it impressed upon me the importance of what we do as citizen soldiers and airmen, but it also was a very interesting experience for me, a difficult experience, because I wasn't just responding to a crisis in a foreign land, but responding to a crisis in the town that I had grown up and loved.
Afterwards, seeing the soldiers and airmen out in the communities providing not only that physical presence of security and help, but also the soldiers' own ability to be able to step away from whatever was going on with them and say, all right, I'm going to go stand out here on this post and hand out water and MREs for my shifts, no matter what's going on at home.
It was actually amazing. You pulled in the front gate and I knew my medical supplies were now down the road. You could see the water line was way over my head. The support of the community was amazing. I know I had a soldier whose house was completely flooded. There was no choice but to let him go home. He had to take care of things. But he was so dedicated, he actually came back like a week and a half later to help us to get all our stuff together and to move into a building. We're really getting better with experience as far as the Guard as a whole. But Sandy was definitely an experience that is just unforgettable.
And in the days that follow, we prioritized taking care of our communities first and then taking care of our facilities. And then as we moved forward, we had to work on basic services, ensuring that there was running water, that we could restore electricity, that the water was safe to drink, that our plumbing worked. In many ways, it was similar to the training we received about how you stabilize an environment that you find yourself deployed in overseas. The partnerships that we formed with other military leaders, with members of law enforcement, with local first responders, also with members of the community, they were tremendously important in terms of facilitating our work in communities. We may be one person, but we were part of a much larger effort, and each day knowing that you were, taking a step towards accomplishing the mission that was in front of you. When you find yourself going through hell, keep going. And so each day we thought, just put one boot in front of the other, and we will find ourselves on the other side of this. And we did, and it's a lesson that I carry with me today. Like thousands of other soldiers and airmen across the state, I was able to be part of the solution. And so it certainly was a range of emotions, and it was challenging. But those long days that we had, the 18-hour days, when we went to sleep, we knew that we had made a difference that day. Whether it was a small difference or a big difference, we were privileged to be a part of that response. It's frankly the reason that we raise our right hand and swear an oath to serve. As an organization, we did learn a tremendous amount from our experience with Superstorm Sandy. I will say, however, that we were prepared to respond because the National Guard has been responding to natural and man-made disasters since we were established in the 1700s. You can never have too many sandbags. In a more important lesson, climate resiliency is vitally important, not just for our communities around us, but also for places like the National Guard Training Center. And the Department of Defense, the New Jersey Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, the state of New Jersey, and many of our communities are more knowledgeable of the impacts that we face from a changing climate. What that has meant in the decades since Sandy is making sure that we site buildings in areas that are not as vulnerable to rising sea levels and flooding. It ensures that we are managing our beaches in a way that protects our natural resources and anticipates the rising sea levels and the threat posed by climate change. Each day presented a new challenge, and it speaks, I believe, to the resiliency not just of the New Jersey National Guard or the New Jersey State Police or Department of Corrections. It speaks to the resiliency of the people of New Jersey.